Every single person in this world has a story to share. Your story is your superpower, and it's unique to you. In sharing it with the world, you can impact millions of people. If you keep it to yourself, you are doing the world a disservice. This is Dela. I'm the host of Dela's Voice, and I help you share your superpower with the world.
Sounds great.
This episode of Dela's Voice Sunday Live Talk Show is brought to you by HelmMastery.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Dela's Voice Sunday Live Talk Show. I'm so happy to be able to be here once again with you to hear from one of our best speakers that we've ever had on Dela's Voice to continue this conversation, this really, really important conversation on balancing our emotions, functioning with our day-to-day emotions, and God knows we can all use that tool. Our guest today is an experienced coach in this particular area and also in so many different areas. A little bit about my guest, Tristan Helm. He's a native of Colorado and Oklahoma. He grew up amid the influence of diverse people with different backgrounds, and he has worked in the mental health field for almost 20 years. He says more than half of his life. He specializes in distinct skills training with those who are mentally handicapped, incarcerated, emotionally ill, and also children under custody of the states. He is passionate about helping people see their true worth and overcome obstacles. He has 5 children and lives in Texas with his wife. And he works as a mental health professional and helps others to focus on understanding their inner struggle. He has been training under the guiding eye of some of the most prominent speakers in the world. He's a published author, best-selling author, and has appeared on various speaking platforms. Recently, actually, he was featured speaker at the Best You Expo in August of 2020 and on Amazon Prime video series Speak Up Season 3. You can find that on Amazon Prime. He's the CEO of Helm Mastery, and he works to help people take lead in their life. His ultimate goal in life is to see his life's work and passion which is helping as many people as possible. Here's my guest, Tristan Helm, for part 2. Tristan.
Hello.
Hello, nice to have you back on.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm excited to be back.
I'm so glad. So where are you? Tell our viewers.
Right now, I am on a business vacation. I'm on a business convention in Orlando, Florida, but it's also like a little vacation with my wife and I. We're down here for one of her businesses that she does, and then I was able to take some time off so I could work and I could network with some people there, and then I could do this wonderful show with you. But I'm in Orlando, Florida right now, and so it's a vacation, but it's also business. So it's like the best of both worlds.
businesscation.
Yeah.
That's nice. So you definitely need a vacation with 5 kids. My hat's off to you and your wife, Tristan. For having a big family certainly is it's not an easy task, and you do it so well. So congratulations.
Thank you. I don't take that lightly. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So here we are for part 2 of our balancing our emotions and functioning with our day-to-day emotions. Now, we spoke last time you were on here, we went into this really scientific explanation of how our emotions work. And we talked about anger in particular as a secondary emotion. And we talked about all the things that happen in our body and in our brain when we get angry. So
Right.
you're back here today for part 2 of that talk, and I want to just make sure that if you're interested, the viewers who are interested to watching that show, it was an awesome show. You can go find it on Dela's Voice YouTube channel. Just look up Tristan Helm, and it should come up for you. And it was taped in March, and it was such a fantastic show that I've kept on watching it ever since.
Oh.
So here we are for part 2, continuing on that, and I hope that you share this talk with the people who may need it, because trust me, we all need that. We
Yeah.
all need that, don't we? So here we are. We have some of our viewers have joined us already. I want to please encourage you to leave us your comments, your experiences, your questions for Tristan. I promise I will go through them. But also, in sharing talks like this is how you can impact the world around you. So please be generous and share talks such as Dela's Voice. And so let's start. I'm just going to put the banner here so that when people come on, they can see it. And here's the other banner for comments and questions and likes and shares. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So if you're watching this right now on YouTube, please don't forget to press that subscribe button. Give us a like on Facebook and share this with other people. And so here we go. We're going to start with my guest, Tristan Helm. Thank you, Chris, also Tristan, for sponsoring the show.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
So here we go. Let's continue where we left off. What would you like to tackle next?
There's a comment wanting to recap the last episode.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, do that, please.
And I was kind of hoping we would, just because I'm trying to remember some of the stuff we talked about. Because if memory serves me correctly, we didn't get very much into the emotions. We kind of just stuck on the story of how I got to learn about emotions.
Yes.
And so a recap would be nice. Actually, it might help me out.
Go for it.
Okay, so I've as that wonderful introduction that you gave me, thank you, by the way, explain I was born in Colorado and I was raised in Oklahoma, around a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different cultures, had various friends of different not statures, but like I just had friends of different groups, lots of diversity. Anyways, all that to say, was I had a lot of irregularities in my emotions. Like I didn't know how to comprehend things. I didn't know how to perceive so I just took everything as like stone cold truth. Anything anybody said to me, I just said, okay, well, yeah, they're probably right and I'm wrong. And I would constantly like push away whatever I believed, and I would like let whatever somebody else said trump what I thought, and that would become my new pattern of thinking. And the reason why this is important to note is when you don't have any base in what you're feeling or what you're thinking, or at least you don't have knowledge of it, that's how the emotions are going to be. They're just going to bounce over because they don't really know where to be placed. And so we talked about my journey of growing up And then where I worked with mentally handicapped. I worked with prisoners. Well, not prisoner. I worked with people that were in jail. That's probably better to put it like that. They're very, very good people. Still very good friends of mine. And then I worked with children that were in DHS custody, CPS custody. And then I moved on to Texas, where I work with people with mental illnesses. So all that to say, it's just a large variety of different people and different challenges of life. And I developed a very, very strong passion to understanding value and understanding yourself. And, they say, the first and the best customer or whatever is always yourself. The person you got to sell is yourself. So I had to teach this stuff to myself before I could ever try to teach it to somebody else. I need to understand how to balance and function with day-to-day emotions more than I would ever want to expect anybody else to. Yeah. And because I have my standard up high, I expected more out of myself, which I will go into later why that is not always the best way to go, but I digress. So then we talked about anger being a secondary emotion. Was speaking with a lady the other day. We were just kind of helping her work through some things. And she's like, my husband, he gets angry. That's what he goes to. And she's like, I feel ashamed. That's what I go to. And I was like, actually, anger is a secondary emotion. And what that means there's an underlining factor for why you're angry, another emotion. And therefore, anger is like this coating that is used to project that emotion. So if I feel ashamed, I'm going to act out in anger because I want to defend myself. Or if I'm embarrassed, or maybe if I'm even sad, I'm so sad that I'm angry because I can't. I feel like maybe being sad is not enough, or I feel like I got to do something, so I get pumped full of energy. And I'll go into what happens to the brain. Is the event goes into the amygdala, the front part of the brain, and then it transfers to the hypothalamus, which is like the processing part. So it comes in here and it starts triggering things, and then it goes to the hypothalamus and then feeds into the adrenal glands. All that says is it's basically you're being pumped full of adrenaline, and usually it's something that you just need to step back and evaluate. So that's kind of a lot what we talked about. We didn't cover, I don't even know if we covered all that, but I know we covered quite a bit.
We did.
And so my philosophy, my way of thinking, my perception is that emotions are great for reaction, but they are terrible for direction. Meaning, emotions are going to tell you, check this out. It's going to seem so simple, it'll blow your mind. Emotions tell you how you feel. That's it. They do nothing else. They're not meant for anything else. Emotions just are a chemical response to a perception of an outside thing. So what happens on the outside comes to the inside, and however that is processed, emotions start coming out. That's it. They don't tell you what's right. They don't tell you what's wrong. They don't tell you what's left, what's right. They don't say anything. But our mistakes, you can find, I want to like almost say 90%, possibly more, of our mistakes are usually made when we're in an emotionally distressed moment, right?
Yes.
So it's when we're not thinking clearly,
Yes.
when oxygen is not getting to the brain, or we're so focused on how we feel that we're going to justify a means to an end.
Yes.
And so emotions are really good for just telling you how you think. That's it. And whenever you take it a step beyond that, that's whenever you start taking more risk and not good risk. You start stepping into a lot of dangerous territory because you don't know what's going to happen.
Because
you don't get to control that.
Yes.
And that usually flares up more emotions like regret, denial, more anger.
Yes, yes, and you're so right. Where we take that moment of saying, let's take a breath, and that's when you can actually start thinking again. Boy, oh boy, but is that ever so hard to do
Yeah.
when you're in the middle of this anger and ah,
Right.
yeah.
So I have it's like a theory or a saying that I'm still developing, that your mind is like, it's not a muscle, but it's like a muscle, meaning that you can then train it or do exercises on what you want it to do. Yes, anger changes the chemistry in your mind, because your mind is just like the computer, right? And everything else is just programming. So your mind tells everything else what to do, and it does it through neurotransmitters and through chemicals. And that's why, like, when someone gives us a present, we get this really good, like, oogly googly feeling. It's called dopamine. When we accomplish something, we get dopamine. When we're sitting out in the sun and we just feel happy about life, we get euphoria, and that's from endorphins. When we feel abandoned or neglected, we feel shame or sadness. I mean, it's just a matter of, what is my brain telling my body? But this is what separates us from every species in the entire world, is we have what's called consciousness. So your brain can act simultaneously while it's reacting to things. You can then, like, start analyzing, why am I thinking that? That's crazy. Why is that coming through my brain? And so you can trust that your emotions are real, but that doesn't mean they are true.
Mm.
So one thing that, and this is just a pet peeve of mine, okay, just me, I get a little, like, it gets underneath my skin when people are like, I just got to follow my heart. Your heart is very deceptive. The Bible even says that you can go in very bad ways, and make very, very bad decisions and unhealthy decisions based on how you feel. So it's not your heart.
I
I
think you got to
think,
take your mind,
but
your brain with you,
yeah. And
right?
so, yeah. So my theory is that you train it, you train your brain like a muscle, but you treat it like it's a child.
You
Like you would
train
raise
your
your
heart.
child.
Okay,
Do
hang on.
what?
Let's say that again. You train your heart like it's a muscle, but
No,
you
no.
treat,
We're talking about the brain. You
okay,
train your brain
your brain like a
like a
muscle.
muscle, means you exercise it, you do the things that help it get stronger, but you treat it like a child. And what that means is you tell yourself what to do, what to think. And again, you do that with your consciousness. So whenever you're about to make a bad decision, or you're about to go do something wrong, or you're about to react, you say, no, you're going to sit here and you're going to wait and you're going to process this, and then you will respond. So you tell your brain what it needs to do.
Someone,
And
someone, someone asked, Tristan. I think this is exactly what you answered. If someone says, "I trust my emotions," what does that mean?
so when someone says that they're trusting their emotions, I mean, it really would depend, because there's that a soul feeling, it's that gut feeling you get, like something's not right. But then you also get that emotional release, that emotional feeling, like, oh, I trust my emotions. Are never are well, I'm not gonna say they're never. Emotions are real, but that doesn't mean they're true. Okay, true is objective facts. Okay, I am in Orlando, Florida. No matter how I feel about it, I'm in Orlando, Florida. Doesn't matter what I think about it. Doesn't matter how I feel. Those are the facts. And so, even though it feels like I'm still in Texas at my home because I'm in a place of comfort and peace, that's not true. I'm not at home. I'm in another place. I'm in another state. So it's evaluating, why do I feel this way? What am I thinking while I'm feeling this way? And is it accurate? So, and again, that's why I'm saying about the muscle, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of exercising to really work out the kinks and how you process things. Like, I still say things I don't mean. I still get angry and I don't know, not do things I don't mean or I don't want to do, but I still get angry and make bad decisions like anybody else. But I'm constantly trying to evaluate, okay, why did I do this? Why did I say this? And so that's why I have that this practice that, I get to decide what I'm going to do. I'm not just going to respond to every emotion that I have. I'm going to evaluate every emotion I have. And your emotions are vital. They're important. Like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. Emotions are very normal. There's nothing wrong with how you feel. It's what you're doing with that feeling. I'm reading a book by Daniel Amen right now, and I'm taking my time. I'm studying it like I'm going to teach it, because I do teach it. But he has this little ABC thing that I just kind of reviewed. And he says, A is the reality, what's going on in real-time world. And then B is the way I perceive it. And then C is what I'm doing about it. And he examples Judas and Peter right around the time that Jesus was crucified. He said both of them betrayed Jesus, but after realizing their mistake, they went different pathways. Both of them were confronted with giving up Jesus or talking about Jesus, right? And Judas, he says, this is the guy that you want. And then he betrays Jesus and sells him out, literally sells him out for 30 pieces of silver. And then realizes, oh no, I should not have done that. That was so bad. Take my money back. And then he goes off and ends his own life. Peter is watching Jesus being beaten, and then they ask him, do you know this guy? He's like, no, I don't know him, because he's scared and he's ashamed. And then he gets reminded that he was told that he was going to do that. But instead of feeling this overwhelming amount of shame, the book tells us that he repented. It means he turned away. He's like, whoa, I messed up. I'm sorry. And then he fixes it, and he becomes the pinnacle and the pillar for where Christianity stands today. But both of them dealt with the fear of being persecuted or being scrutinized. Both of them made a decision off what they were afraid was going to happen, but both of them decided, I'm going to fix this. Or one of them decided, I'm going to fix this, and the other one decided, I can't keep going, and there's no, resolving this. So, go ahead. I can't hear you.
Because I'm muted.
Okay.
What I'm hearing is this, that emotions are not bad or good. So you can't really say, oh, my emotions are bad or good. It's really what we do with them. Right.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's what we do with these emotions that really matter. And so taking
Absolutely.
our time and really asking those questions: is this true or is this real? Like, it's real for me, but is it true?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so that's really good.
Yeah. And so this is not so much how to balance and function with the emotions. It's how to understand the way you think, because that's what your emotions are always going to reflect.
Mm-hmm.
Your emotions reflect what's going on inside, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they just react with chemicals, sadness, joy, peace, anger, embarrassment, hungry, all these like emotions. They're just saying, hey, this is what's going on. They're just, it's like being in a base where they've got like a light for everything, for every situation. It's just an alert system. That's it. What you do after that is completely up to you.
You know
And
what's
so,
really important, Tristan, is that I think it's really important to be able to name our emotion. Because a lot of times we don't really know what we're feeling. Like if, at any point of time, if you're not really present and thinking about what you're feeling, you could be confused as to what emotions you're actually feeling. So I think that's a really good, important piece of information, don't you?
oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's whenever you sit back and just say, okay, I'm sad. Well, it's okay to be sad. So why am I sad? Because this transpired. Okay. So I'm going to sit back and I'm going to pause and I'm going to reflect and I'm going to process it. Doesn't mean that everything is falling down. It just means that I'm sad about it. And I'm like I said, I'm at this convention and I heard this lady like explain it better than the way I can. So I'm going to use what she said. That said, your mind, every time you have an event, your mind starts looking around for similar events, and it pulls out the emotion that is closely related to that, or not closely related. It pulls out a similar event and the emotion tied with it. Because whenever you have an experience, generally, whatever emotion you're experiencing during that situation, during that time, becomes the memory and the engulfment, right? So it's this happens, and then this is my emotions. And so I'm always going to connect that emotion with similar events. That's what trauma is. Trauma is whenever people, their emotions have been stretched so strong and so far that they can't process it, right? And so anytime they hear something or they feel something or they see something that reminds them of said event, they have similar emotions and similar reactions, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, stuff like that. So like, as an example, I would never do this. This is just, if I gave you a dozen roses and then I punched you in the face, and then I gave you another dozen roses and I punched, and you kept like, stop giving me roses. Like, I don't like roses. And you were emotionally in a place where like that was affecting you. Well, anytime someone gave you emotions, there's a high chance you're going to get defensive, right?
Yeah.
But if I gave you emotion, or I gave you emotions, I gave you flowers and a card that said, Dela, I think you're just a wonderful person. Thank you so much for this show. And I kept doing stuff like that. You'd always get this endorphins, these dopamine feelings every time we talked, because you related the experience with the emotion.
Yes. Yeah. Is it okay if we look at some of the comments, Tristan?
Absolutely.
I know I'm going off on a tangent. I don't want to.
No, it's okay.
But there are some really, really great comments here. So Meti says, I overthink toward my emotion based on the fact that they may be wrong. And sometimes I feel like I'm in a rabbit hole, so I get tired.
Okay, so usually what's happened is your brain goes in overload because it's trying to do so much at once that your body's like, that was a lot. Because your body takes a toll on what the mind goes through, right? The something that could help this person is accept that every time you feel an emotion, you say, okay, this is how I feel. Doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just how I feel. And you cut yourself off after that. You say, okay, that's just how I feel. Now, let me go seek advice. Let me read on this topic. Let me look for objective ways to respond to this situation before I just react out of emotion. And I'm hoping that makes sense.
I think it makes total sense.
Yeah. I'm like a superpower overthinker. I overthink everything. And I'm working on step back. That's not the case every time. Take it slowly.
So I think this is exactly what Mohammed is asking. What is meant by emotional intelligence? I I think this is a big part of it, right? What you just explained.
Yeah, and it's again our purpose, and this is I'm trying to say this because I don't believe in like cookie cutter responses and blanket theories, but I believe it would be helpful if we learn to just understand ourselves more and more.
Mm-hmm.
The more we understand ourselves, the more we're going to understand, oh, well, yeah, that's why I'm sad, because I've been through this. I've experienced this. Okay, do I want to stay that way? No. So let me change. Let me work my way through this so I can have a better outcome.
Okay.
And that's why humans are different from any other species, is everything is not instinctive. We can make conscious decisions that go against what we feel like we need to do, and that can end up saving us a lot of grief and a lot of trouble, pending that the decision you're making is a good one.
So, Tristan, we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. It's going to be a quick one. Don't go anywhere.
I won't. I'm staying right here.
Okay.
Sounds great.
This episode of Dela's Voice Sunday Live Talk Show is brought to you by HelmMastery.com.
And we're back with our guest, Tristan Helm of Helm Mastery. You changed your spot.
I did, because my battery was getting low on my computer, so I had to take a step inside so I could charge my computer.
Hey, it's convenient. It's great. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're back. Just before the break, we were going through the comments, and I want to make sure that we look at them again. How to function, how to balance and function with day-to-day emotion. And thank you so much, everyone, for the comments and your experiences and your questions. So let's see. Meti says, even a pilot thinks and mimics a lot on their emotions in disaster time. What's your take on this?
That depends on the pilot, because pilots are trained through hours and hours of simulation flights. And
Yeah.
They're programmed. They're programmed to respond a certain way, because studies have shown if you do this in a disaster, the likelihood of landing safely increases. And so that's when they go by their gut feeling or their instinct. That subconscious kicks in, and it's, well, how do I feel? What do I do? If you get so wrapped up in your emotions, you'll usually pause and react wrong, or you might even just freeze. That's part of the fight, flight, freeze response, is you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But if you learn to practice things, I'm glad that person brought that up, because that's a great example that pilots have to spend hours and hours and hours practicing certain things, and they have to prepare for inclement weather. They got engines. They have to prepare for almost every situation they can think of. So should that occur, God forbid, they know what to do, because it's been trained to be automatic.
Okay. Thank you for that. Also, there's a comment here on naming our emotions. He says, I sometimes feel quite out of energy, and I constantly look for any reason, and I don't find any.
So it says, I'm sorry, say that again.
So when we were speaking about naming our emotions, like what am I feeling right now? Him says, I don't know what I guess HMM says, I sometimes feel quite out of energy, and I constantly look for any reason, and I don't find any. So are you looking for the reason that you're out of energy? Is that what you're looking for? So
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, they want to know why they're energy or they can't
yeah.
identify the emotion.
No, I think I'm with you. I'm not clear on that, but I maybe you can clarify that a little bit. Yes, that's she says. He says yes.
Okay,
He or she
so
says yeah.
because energy is not just physical exertion. Okay, energy is also mental exertion. Like I sit and I talk to people all day long, and I'll sit in an office and I'll type and then I'll talk to people, and I don't. There's not a lot of physical activity, but by the end of the day, I'm mentally exhausted. And
Mm-hmm.
when I'm mentally exhausted, I don't feel like doing anything. I'm tired.
Yeah. Yes.
And there's ways that I kind of override that and do something that I need to do, even though I don't feel like it. But there is a term in the mental health industry, and I might be pronouncing it wrong. It's called alexithymia or alexithymia, and it's the inability to express or identify an emotion. Now, does that help?
Is the ability to identify an emotion?
Yeah, the inability to
The
identify or
inability.
express an
Thank
emotion,
you.
meaning like,
Wow.
I don't know how I feel about this.
This is actually a
You
thing.
know, do what?
It's actually a thing. See, you're not the
Yeah.
only one.
Yeah, like it's in the mental health world, and usually it just means that. And again, this is old theory on my part with this. Is it can very well mean that you're having multiple emotions about things, and you're very I think it's ambivalent is the terminology. So it's up and down. So it's like I don't know what do I do? Do I turn right or left? I don't know how to feel, and so you can't pinpoint it to one specific thing. What could help that person would be to step away from the situation, or possibly just say, you know what, I can, and you say this out loud because your words send vibrations into the atmosphere and your brain responds to vibrations. They're just wavelengths. So you tell yourself, you know what, I cannot identify this, so I'm not going to respond. And then you could put that feeling, the inability to identify it, and look at it objectively. Look at the situation. Like, okay, how does this help? How does this hurt me? What are the good and the bad aspects? And you're not there to give your opinion. You're just there to look at the black and white of the issue. Like, okay, this cup is usually clear and it's made out of glass, but there is a little dark yellow substance, and I believe it's orange juice. I don't know if it's orange juice. I just know that it's an orangey color. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? It's completely observational. You are just looking at the facts. You are not identifying how you feel or how you think about it. You're just looking at the facts. And so you don't have to identify how you feel about it to have an emotion. You could just say, well, I don't know how I feel about that. And so you take your mind off it, you process it, you think about it. But emotions are just, again, they're just there.
Robert Brooker, thank you for being here. He says, this is an advantage of being human, that we can develop the skill of choosing our response to any stimuli as opposed to simply reacting. That is yeah, a big advantage.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
It's very, very true. So there was a question. Hang on, let me see here. Okay. And Robert says, the most effective way to gain energy for me is to uplift others. The better I get at this, the more energy I receive.
Absolutely. And that's mirroring. That's by projecting something you want to help somebody with, that usually helps you, because you're going to have that same, because that's what you're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's why I'm believing that's why he said that, is we have the ability to override our emotions. And here's a great example. My wife and I have this practice at home because we like to work out. That if we don't want to work out, we give ourselves 5 minutes on the elliptical, just 5 minutes. That's it. And if we still don't want to work out after 5 minutes, or we still don't want to go do our work, or we still don't, or that feeling is still there after we have overridden it, okay, maybe there's a reason that I don't want to work out, and it's more than just I don't want to work out. Because for me, once I get in the gym and I get going, I'm good. Like I'll keep it running for a while, just because I've built up the momentum.
Yes.
But there have been times where I get in there and I'll do 5 minutes and I'm like, man, I can't. And I realize I haven't slept in a while. I haven't slept very well. I haven't had any real good food. I haven't been outside. You know what? Let's go do something else. Let's read a book. Let's watch a movie. And so I allow myself to curb that emotion. And I don't know if that makes sense, but you can override how you feel by doing things that are going to be productive. And then again, if that emotion doesn't go away, sometimes your body is really just trying to tell you something. Your mind is like, no, this is a big deal. You can find this in a lot of situations when parents or adults or kids are fighting over something silly. Usually it just doesn't happen. There's something else going on. My nephew someone's giving him a hard time at school, and I think it's my nephew. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, that person who's giving a hard time, what's their home life like? Oh, they're just moving and their parents are separating and this is going on. Like, okay. So not that it's okay for them to pick on you, but they're dealing with instability. They're dealing with a lot of stress. And
there's that secondary emotion, right?
Yeah. And they're just projecting all that confusion and anger and distress onto someone that they see they can do it.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe it's so powerful to understand yourself and understand what's really going on. Whenever I teach anger management, one of the things that we go over is that, if I'm driving down a road and someone cuts me off, I'm going to probably get a little upset. However, if I knew that person was on their way to the hospital because they just got a call at work and their wife's in labor and the results aren't good and he needs to hurry and get there. Oh, you know what? By all means, let me step aside. You need to get there. And it's not that I should give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but I'm less likely to respond to my initial desire to react. It's, I understand. That's good. Go get to the hospital. I'd want that too. I'd want someone to get out of my way. And so you just look at, what am I thinking while I feel this way? And that's when you're like, okay, when I was 5, ... or when I was 12, ... So that's why I feel this way. Okay.
This is so good. Really, I think it's sitting well with a lot of people because everybody can use this information. By the way, our friend Samir Lal just joined us, and he says, great information, much needed in today's world. I wanted to read a comment because we need to spend some time there. Mehdi says, do you believe in practices like methodologies? I'm thinking steps, things before starting a day. What do you suggest?
Okay. All right. So I have no problem talking about this. This is something I love. Like I get excited about, like I'm jumping up and down because I believe in principles over methods. Okay. Principles are things that don't change. They're constant. Methods be like, well, this helps me today, but that's not going to help me today. So yes, I believe in methodology in doing things, but I also believe, what am I trying to accomplish by this method? Because what helps you may hurt me. What hurts me or what helps me may hurt you. So let's remove the method and say, what am I trying to accomplish? And then you can try different avenues to reach that goal. And I do believe in starting your day. Dr. Daniel Amen, he said he's talking about, you have what's called ants, like they're automatic negative thoughts. Okay. And with today's world, with all the stigma and the stimuli and everything just bam, bam, bam everywhere, you're going to be negative because guess what? Your brain is used to being around negative things. So it's going to have thoughts.
Yeah. By
And he
default.
said, so what you do is you detour those thoughts and you take them another direction. Like, okay, well, I'm not going to think that, obviously. Let's think something positive. And all that to say is whenever you voice what you're going to do in that day and you speak it, you are going to then, and this is the cool science part. I'm going to try to
You look right now, you look like you're having so much fun.
I am because this stuff it's once you learn it, it's like it opens up the whole new world of I'm in complete control of what I'm doing. I don't have to respond. I have a superpower called consciousness. And so have you ever noticed that listening to a song can change your entire mood?
Yeah.
Like when I'm feeling down, I don't want to listen to happy music. I want to listen to songs that are very melancholy and because they fit my mood.
Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes that's important. However, just like with music, words send vibrations in the air to your mind. Okay. So you can tell yourself, I'm going to have a great day. No matter what happens, there's going to be something I can get from it, good and bad. If something bad happens, I'm going to learn from it. If something good happens in it, I'm going to rejoice in it. No matter what, this is going to be a good day. And you say that not as an affirmation, but an incantation, an assertion like, no, I'm going to perceive things in a positive way, no matter what. Now, does that mean you're going to prevent everything bad from happening? No. Does that mean you're not allowed to sob and weep? No. You're allowed to have emotions. You're allowed to feel distress. Those are good emotions. When you cry, you're processing. Your body's releasing that pent-up energy. But in this case, when you're starting the day, you can say, okay, no matter what happens today, I can find something good out of it, or I can use it to help somebody else. And the reason why I bring up this as a principle over a method is because sometimes things happen that we have no control over, and there's absolutely no reason to be happy about it, and that's okay. But what we do is we sit back, we process it, we allow our time to grieve, and when we're grieving, we say, okay, it's just, that's what it is. It stinks. But maybe someday I can help somebody with it. I firmly believe that when something happens to you against your will, it can be used to help somebody. And I don't want to say everything or anything, but I've seen some of the most dastardly, horrific, devilish things happen to people, and they move on to be the most impactful, powerful, loving, sweet, kind, generous people you will ever meet, because that situation didn't it didn't claim them. They rose above it, but they processed it first. Hallelujah. So my dad died on December 28th last year. And it was one of the very few times in my life that I did not care about anybody else other than myself for that time, because I lost my hero. I lost my best friend. And it's not that everybody else can kiss off. It was like, you know what? I'm going to cry. I'm going to break down, and I'm going to grieve this tragedy in my life. This is not good. And I remember saying to myself, maybe someday this can help somebody. My emotion, my experience, not this, but just maybe. And so I grieved, I wailed, I cried harder than I've cried in a long time. I picked myself up. I went to my dad's house that night with my mom, and I just I had a speaking engagement that night. And so I had to like put it aside and talk. But the next morning I got up, I grieved more. Then we started working on the funeral. Later on, there was somebody who needed comfort. Guess what? I was able to pull that out and say, yeah, loss sucks. It's terrible. And I told them my story and it helped them. So again, it's not that every situation's good. It's just that we don't have to become over, like where it just takes a hold of us and we can't do anything about it.
So Tristan,
does that make sense?
Yes. Before the show, and thank you. I felt like you were speaking to me, because before the show, I did explain to you what happened yesterday, and I think I consider myself one of those people who always tries to see the good in everything. And
Right.
I'm one of those people who says, oh, if I choose this day to be good, it's going to be good. Nothing bad is going to happen to me. Everything that's good is going to come my way. And sometimes I get these big lessons, and I think it's really my awakening that no, disappointing things do happen and horrible things do happen. And so I think my lesson in that was that, yes, let me be clear with myself. Let me be true to myself and understand that without this beauty around me, without the ugliness around me, I won't be able to see the beauty. And so
Right.
they both do exist. And I think it's not a question of whether bad things do happen to me or not, is that how I deal with it. How long do I immerse myself in that situation?
Absolutely, yeah.
And how I come out of it at the end. And like you said, what's the lesson in this for me?
Yeah.
What can I pull out of this, and how am I going to use it to help others?
Yeah. And so if I can, sometimes, and I agree 100%, sometimes the lesson is the purpose, right? It's not so much what am I doing wrong to deserve this? It's how can this be used to help somebody? How can this be a force for good? How can this be purposed, as opposed to I'm doing something wrong, this keeps happening? Well, that happens. It doesn't mean you are in the wrong. We're often way too critical of ourselves, especially in the Western culture. We're too critical, like, oh, I've got to be doing something wrong. We sometimes it's just bad, and it just is what it is. And I'm not blowing it off. I'm not saying it's good, or I'm not saying it's not important. It's what happens, but it can be used for good somehow. It can be used to comfort somebody. It can be used for empathy purposes. It can be used to, okay, here's what I know and how to be effective with this, right? Like some of the most, I would almost dare to say every powerful individual I've ever come across had a lot of bad things happen in their life. Now, did they just dismiss the bad? No, they took the bad. They understood it, and then they purposed it. Okay, great example. Real quick, and I'll make this fast. I was talking with a patient the other day, and we're talking about employment, and he's talking about all the bad things that he's been through and everything that has happened to him, and just tragic stuff. And usually when I'm with the patient, we have this practice where we write down all the stuff that's happened in the past, rip it up, and then throw it away because it's behind you. And I've had this urge to like not say that. And so we kept talking, we kept working. And I said, look, how about this? I want you to write some of the things, but then I want you to ask yourself, how can my pain be given purpose? How can this be used to help people? So that way I'm not regretting my past. I'm not regretting what's happened. I'm just saying these are things that I got out of it, and now I can use this to help other people. And so it doesn't mean that I can't have anything bad in my life. It just means if it happens, I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to grow, and I'm going to process it, and then I'm going to move on to the next phase, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to help, because that's the whole purpose. That's why a lot of us are, that's why we're here. We're here to help each other out. We're here to lend out that hand. And if I have pain that relates to your pain, by all means, come cry on my shoulder. Let me grieve with you. I don't want you to feel alone. So.
Thank you. Going back to some of those practices to start your day, was there anything else you wanted to add?
That every emotion is real, but it's just a reflection of how you're perceiving it. So whenever you validate, and I think that has become like a mantra of mine recently, is validation, for people to feel validated. You are allowed to be sad. You're allowed to be angry. You don't have to disagree. You don't have to control everything.
You mean you don't have to agree?
Yeah, you don't. You don't have to agree with everything. I'm okay with being wrong. I'm okay with learning from that. And I'm okay with you being wrong. I'm not saying you are. I'm okay with us still staying at peace. I don't have to control anything in my life. I just have to make sure that what I'm doing is helpful and productive. That's the balance, is evaluating how I feel, validating it, and then either moving on to the next stage or using it to help people, which is often the next stage.
Yeah, that's certainly for me is it's a different perspective. And so I don't have to control anything else in my life other than how am I going to make this helpful? How am I going to, is that what you just said?
Yeah. You don't have to control anything outside. In fact, most of the time you can't. You can control what happens inside.
Right. So so I think that's the part I didn't get. Okay. So again, like that's really it needs to be more clear. So I want to make sure that everybody's clear on this message. So
right.
Can we?
And if I can add just one more thing, is I'm very careful, and maybe I even shouldn't use the word control. Manage. Because control means I get to determine everything. If I manage it, then I'm more flexible. You know what I mean? So functioning and balancing in your emotions is just taking things at face value and then moving on to whatever is the next phase, whether it's processing it, evaluating it, understanding it, using it for good. It's just managing. I just say control, meaning like I don't get to make any decisions that happens in this world other than what I do. That's the only decisions I get to make are the ones for me.
Yes. What is my reaction going to be?
Absolutely. That's it.
What direction am I going to take as a result?
When I say control, I mean decisions.
Yes.
Management.
And so thank you for that. So I just want to go full circle and bring it back. But I do want to see what Matty says. After your father's loss, did you unconsciously unleash your emotions by crying, or your emotions were under control, so that was a choice? Crying a choice, or
I'm going to say both. Because it is my daily practice to evaluate what I'm thinking and what I'm saying and what I'm feeling constantly. Like I'm always in a constant state, or I'm in most of the time I'm in a constant state of evaluation. Like, how do I feel? What do I think what's going on? I'm always trying to process things. And so whenever I got to the hospital bed and saw that he was on the ventilator, I was shocked. And then I heard someone say, no, he's gone. I immediately was like, I feel like crying. I feel like breaking down. You know what? I'm going to do it. So I did it. It was just, that's it. Both of them were working hand in hand. It was an initial reaction, but it was one that I said, you know what? This is one of the few times in my life. I don't care if other people like this or not. I'm going to do this because I want to cry. I want to wail, and I want to process this. And I think about that single moment in my life since it's happened constantly. And now I get this feeling of euphoria. I get this peaceful feeling because I didn't hold it in. I chose to let it out. I chose to grieve. I didn't let anybody decide whether I should suppress it or not, or whether I should, you'll be fine. This will be over. This is God's will. No, like, I'm going to cry. I'm allowed to. You don't get to decide how I feel right now. And crying is a good thing. So I'm going to do it. And it was instantaneous. But I know, because I could see all these things happening, like a play-by-play at the same time. Like, I want to cry. I'm going to cry. Who cares what anybody thinks? This is healthy. It's good. Let's go.
Thank you. Yes, Samir says it is all about the choices you make.
Absolutely.
So I want to bring it back. So kind of recap what we talked about today. And so in order to balance our day-to-day emotions and function while we're feeling all these different kinds of emotion, I want to ask you, if you were to ask yourself one single question to bring that awareness back, so that you, like you said, you are able to manage. What would that question be? What would you ask yourself?
Why do I feel this way?
Okay.
Because
so not how am I feel, not what am I feeling and how am I feeling? It's why do I feel this way?
Yeah. Because again, emotions are just reactions. And if you say, okay, why do I feel this way? Because this, and this. Okay, that's understandable. And now I get to take on it. It helps process. When you get stuck in the process of an event and you don't manage your emotions, you get stuck in that state of mind. Whenever you say, why do I feel this way? It allows you to take the next step, or to at least accept that this is my area. This is where I'm at. That's valid. We're all in different walks of life. Now, when I'm ready, I will take the next step.
Okay.
So when I ask myself, why do I feel this way? It helps me to understand, why do I feel this way?
Okay. And yes, and it allows you to answer those questions. Is this true, or is this
Absolutely.
really true? Is this a fact? Do I have anything to back this up?
Yes, ma'am.
Question. That's a very good question. Thank you for that.
you.
We're out of time, Tristan. I'm so happy that you were able to join me today. I feel like this needs to continue. So please come back on Dela's.
Okay.
Let's have
Definitely. As soon as I get a next Sunday off, I will.
Yeah, the next opportunity, that I would love that for you to be here. And Robert says, crying is the body's way of removing toxins from the body, and something I have no issue doing. I'm with you, Robert. I have no issue crying.
Yeah, I don't mind. I like crying. I'm a sap. I love romantic comedies and crying. It just feels good when you're done. You're like, man, whoo, that felt good because you got it out of your system. 100% agree.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, Tristan, I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to finish off with whatever you like, my friend.
Oh, my website is www.helmmastery.com. I'm linked in with a lot of different people. Wonderful Dela. And on there I've got courses, but I also have I just added a free 15-minute consultation where we can help somebody set goals, or at least evaluate where they're at and work with them on their emotions. My method is a bit unorthodox. I don't like using big terminology. I like very simple terms. I like terms that anybody can understand because that's how I understand it.
That's it?
Wow. Yes,
that's it. Okay. Well, www.helmmastery.com. Go over there and check out also Tristan's book, which we spoke about last time on the show, After Midnight, if I remember correctly.
Yep, that's correct.
Wonderful book by you. And then there'd be a link to your also famous
Yes,
talk.
ma'am.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay, well, I want to thank you again one more time for being here, Tristan. And I wish you the best of vacation time with your wonderful wife. May you get the energy you so deserve to get back and on this time. But thank you again. And for everyone who's been watching this show, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for your comments and your questions and your experience. It's wonderful to have you on the show participating. I'm so blessed. Thank you. So this has been another Dela's Voice Sunday live talk show, hoping to spark your soul. Have a great day.
Sounds great.
This episode of Dela's Voice Sunday Live Talk Show is brought to you by HelmMastery.com.